Hello all. Today we'll discuss global trade trends in 2021. After more than a decade of relative stability, the dynamics of global trades have been thrown into disarray by the global pandemic. So says the Economist Intelligence Unit in the new era global trade in 2020 and beyond. In it, the publication paints an uncertain picture of what is to come on the international trade front over the next 12 months. The spread of coronavirus is affecting production in Asia, disrupting supply chain across the world, and depressing consumer demand. Also, while economic forecasts that measure the depth of the looming recession vary, it says that there is a widespread consensus that the global economy will contract much more sharply than during 2008-9 global financial crisis, though it is to be seen what will happen to the market. Now, the impact of COVID-19. The knock on implications of the virus are disrupting both international business operations and global supply chains, according to the Economics Intelligence Unit. And it also says that the most affected regions in China are crucially important to many global industries. Hubei, for example, is the heart of China's optics valley, where firms produce essential components for use in telecom networks. Around one quarter of the world's optical fiber cables and devices are manufactured there, as are vast number of smartphone microchips and more basic goods such as iron and steel components or chemicals. The report says that although Chinese factories they've started reopening, but the fact is that the coronavirus has spread across the world so severely, undermining consumer demand in key export markets. Having interviewed numerous global trade experts for its report, the organization says that most interviewees believe that the virus will have a long lasting structural impact on the way in which the firms manage supply chains and supplier relations. Many supply chains rely on smaller companies which could go out of business before the virus disappears. Small and medium sized businesses do not have the capital to survive for months without any sales. So the market has become such that big is becoming bigger, and it is so difficult for the small and medium sized businesses to sustain themselves. What has been on the US China Accords? So it has been volatile US China trade. Already an issue pre pandemic, this is one area of concern that's only been exacerbated by the global pandemic. In 2019, US China bilateral trade represented $560 billion. Pre COVID tension in this trading relationship was the biggest cloud of uncertainty hanging over global trade. The Economic Business Intelligence states that it will continue to be a crucial factor shaping global trade in the coming year. The uncertainty caused by the US Chinese trade relations is likely to raise buyers' costs by forcing firms to hold higher level of stocks, the organization predicts. Planning will also be complicated as companies are forced to budget for greater contingency in order to mitigate the heightened risks. It says that the volatility is likely to prompt procurement departments to think about reducing their exposure to possible resumption of the US China trade war, including possible product rerouting or alternative sourcing. So, US already has been looking for alternating sources as well as product rerouting. Let us see the US European Union trade relations. The United States and European Union are the largest trading partners of most other countries in the world, and they account for a third of world trade flows. Given the already low tariff barriers to make the deal a success, the aim is to remove non-tariff barriers. Now, if we see the US services trade surplus with European Union was $54 billion in 2019. US goods export to the European Union in 2019 totaled $267 billion. That is up by 6.2% from 2018 and up 53% from 2009. US exports to the European Union accounts for 16.3% of overall US exports in 2019. And if we actually see the European Union's biggest trading partner is United States, and then China follows. So if we see that what is the impact the EU has on the United States. So if we see in 2018, the United States had an overall $115 billion trade deficit in merchandise and services with European Union, as the merchandise deficit outweighed the services surplus. So the Economist Business Intelligence also says that these relations have been under the strain since mid 2018, when the US government launched an investigation into the national security implications of imports of foreign made cars and parts and threatened to raise tariffs on European auto imports by 25%. Although the US appears to have withdrawn the threat for now, tension persists on a number of fronts. Now, for example, the US threatens to place additional tariffs on France after its efforts to implement a digital services tax. Any of these disputes could spark a damaging trade war between the US and the European Union. The organization has already mentioned this. Now, should these tensions escalate, it could raise costs for businesses and take a bite out of corporate profits. Sometimes firms can look to pass in extra cost to consumers through higher retail prices. But if domestic demand is struggling as a result of the impact of the coronavirus, firms will have to absorb these costs internally. If we actually see, the United States and European Union are each other's largest trade and investment partners. Their ties are deep, but some barriers to trade and investments remain. Over the years, the two sides have sought a further liberalization trade and investment ties, enhancing regulatory cooperation, and work together on international economic issues of joint interest, including through international institutions such as World Trade Organization. The trading relationship is largely harmonious, but frictions emerge, like we have discussed, periodically due to high level of commercial activity and disagreements on specific policy issues. US-EU trade and economic relations face heightened tension now due to the shifts in certain US trade policies under the Trump administration. But with John Biden coming in the power, these issues may be resolved sooner than we expected, because as Joe Biden assumed the office, they have been taking a U-turn on the decisions made by the Trump government. Identifying and reacting to disruptions. The Economist Business Intelligence points to rising non-tariff protectionism. Example is subsidies in the form of direct financial support on the part of governments, and the taxation of digital trade as two more trends that organizations should be paying attention to right now. And while COVID-19 is clearly the most widespread, impactful issue to watch at the moment, the pre-existing trends outlined above are equally as important. The year 2020 is said to be a watershed for the global economy. Even when coronavirus itself is eventually contained, no company should expect a quick and easy return to normal. The business that survive and even thrive in the new normal will be those that identify how these disruptions affect their business and adapt and change accordingly sooner rather than later. Because if you change with times, then only you can be profitable. Now we come to the WTO stats and WTO report. What is World Trade Report? The World Trade Report is an annual publication that aims to deepen the understanding about trends in trade, trade policy issues, and the multilateral trading systems which are being adopted in various countries while doing trade with other countries. So these are the trade policies that are being issued by the World Trade Organization, the trends, whatever is happening, as well as the multilateral trading system is being shown in the World Trade Report. So what has been the World Trade Report for 2020? Let us see the main points. The first is the world merchandise trade volume is forecast to fall 9.2% in 2020. The projected decline is less than 12.9% drop foreseen in optimistic scenario from April trade forecast. Trade volume growth should rebound to 7.2% in 2021 but will remain well below the pre-crisis trend. Global GDP will fall by 4.8% in 2020 before rising by 4.9% in 2021. The trade decline in Asia of 4.5% for exports and 4.4% for imports in 2020 will be smaller than in other regions. The downside risks still predominate, particularly if there is a resurgence of COVID-19 cases in the coming months. The 14.3% quarter-on-quarter decline in world merchandise trade in the second quarter is the largest on record, but high frequency data point to a partial rebound in the third quarter. The trade shows signs of rebound from COVID-19 recovery, still uncertain. The WTO now forecasts a 9.2% decline in the volume of world merchandise trade for 2020, followed by a 7.2% rise in 2021. These estimates are subject to an unusually high degree of uncertainty since they depend on the evolution of the pandemic and the government responses to it. The current data suggests a projected decline for the current year that is less severe than the 12.9% drop foreseen under the more optimistic of two scenarios outlined in the World Trade Organization's April trade forecast. Strong trade performance in June and July have brought some signs of optimism from overall trade growth in 2020. Trade growth in COVID-19 related products was particularly strong in these months, showing trade's ability to help governments obtain needed supplies. Conversely, the forecast for next year is more pessimistic than the previous estimate of 21.3% growth, leaving merchandise trade well below its pre-pandemic trend in 2021. If we talk about India and the tariffs, if you know that India's average tariffs have increased in 2021 much more than what it was before. So it has increased by it has increased to 14.3%, with the country's policymakers frequently using trade policy measures to encourage domestic production and curb inflation. The World Trade Organization said in its latest trade policy review for India that while the overall goal remains to increase exports, since policy making in India is focused on domestic issues, trade policy is frequently used to encourage domestic production and meet domestic inflation and supply objectives. Therefore, the changes are made as required to import and export restrictions and the tariff to ensure stable domestic supplies of key products. The WTO Secretariat also said in its report that holding the frequent changes in import and export policy creates uncertainty for economic actors. Therefore, international trade receives inadequate attention both in government and outside India, with the inward focus being visible across most institutions, both in public and private sectors. The World Trade Report called for a reduction of tariff for making it simple and more predictable. With regard to agriculture, it recommends that there must not be a stop and start policy on exports and imports of agricultural products because that prevents farmers from taking objective decisions on sowing different crops. India's average agricultural tariff rose from 36.4% in financial year 2015 to 36.5% in financial year 21, while average non-agricultural tariff rose from 9.5% to 11.1% during the same period. The most important increase in non-agricultural goods includes clothing from 10% to 19.6%, oil seeds, fats, oil and their products, and sugar and confectionery, etc. In the case of non-agricultural products, the average tariff also increased basically because of the hike in duties levied on leather, rubber, footwear, and travel goods. And that actually increased from 12.8% to 15.4%. India's tariff rates range from 0 to 150%, with 67.8% of all tariff lines between 0 to 10%. And the most common tariff rates continue to be 10% and 7.5%. The highest rates above 60% apply to products such as alcoholic beverages, which is 150%, followed by animals and their products, fruits, vegetables and plants, coffee and tea, and certain motor vehicles with tariffs of 100%. So the trade policy reviews are an exercise which is mandated in WTO agreements in which trade-related policies of members are examined at regular interval, and the key developments that may impact the global trading system are also monitored. India's previous trade policy review was conducted in 2015, and now it has been conducted now, and they have been told to reduce the tariffs. If we see in the report, what does it say? It says that the performance of trade for the year to date exceeded expectations due to a surge in June and July as lockdowns were eased and economic activity accelerated. The pace of expansion could slow sharply once pent-up demand is exhausted and business inventories have been replenished. More negative outcomes are possible if there is a resurgence of COVID-19 in the fourth quarter. In contrast to the trade, GDP fell more than expected in the first half of 2020, causing forecasts for the year to be downgraded. Consensus estimates now put the decline in the world market weighted GDP in 2020 at minus 4.8% compared to minus 2.5% under the more optimistic scenario outlined in WTO's April forecast. But if you remember, that was the time people were still hopeful that the trade would go up, and we didn't know that in the March that it's an ongoing process, and even the year would just jump and we would not have a solution. So April forecast was much more optimistic than it really went. The GDP growth is also expected to pick up to 4.9% in 2021, but this is highly dependent on the policy measures and on the severity of the disease. As we have seen already, the forecast update of 22nd June, a weak trade recovery that fails to return trade to the pre pandemic trend was a distinct possibility. This would result in merchandise trade growth of around 5% next year rather than 20% in the case of a rapid return to the previous trajectory. The current rate forecast of 7.2% for 2021 appears to be closer to the weak recovery scenario than to a quick return to the trend. So, the world mercantile trade growth is basically expected to remain strong given there is no resurgence of COVID-19 situation again. But continued expansion depends upon the robust global economic growth and governments pursuing appropriate monetary, fiscal, and especially trade policies. As per the WTO estimates, the WTO, the merchandise trade volume growth should increase, and growth is expected to be moderate and below to average, but still firmly above the post crisis average. However, there are signs that escalating trade tensions may already be affecting business confidence and investment decisions, which could compromise the current outlook. The strong trade growth that we are seeing today, just because, or we are anticipating maybe some kind of growth, it will be vital for continued economic growth to support job creation, because there has been a very concerning unemployment rate that has increased in the COVID times. So it is going to be a challenge for all the economies, including India. What we have seen is, the trade volume growth has been negative, and these are more than cyclical factors, and this is more than the increased investment and consumption expenditures. So the things in COVID have actually put everything down, and all the recalculation had to be done. Although the trade decline during the COVID-19 pandemic is similar in magnitude to the global financial crisis of 2008 and 2009, the economic context is very different. The contraction in GDP has been much stronger in the current recession. One, because it was completely uncalled for, and nobody anticipated it. We could never think that the entire world could shut down on some disease. And the fall in trade has been more moderate. As a result, the volume of the world merchandise trade is only expected to decline around twice as much as world GDP at market exchange rates, rather than 6 times as much during the 2009 collapse. So the this divergent performance of trade during the COVID-19 outbreak has much to do with the nature of the pandemic and the policies used to combat it. Lockdowns and travel restrictions impose significant supply side constraints on national economies, drastically reducing output and employment in sectors that are usually resistant to business cycle fluctuations, particularly the non trade services. At the same time, robust monetary and fiscal policies have propped up incomes, allowing consumption and imports to rebound once lockdowns were erased. Whether the recovery can be sustained over the medium term will depend on the strength of investment and employment. Both could be undermined if confidence is dented by new outbreaks of COVID-19. That is completely uncalled for, but we have found so many strains, different strains, and mutations of COVID-19, which are very threatening for the governments and the economies. And if that happens, God forbids, it might force governments to impose additional lockdowns. As a result, risks to the forecast are firmly on the downside. There is some limited upside potential if a vaccine or other medical treatments prove to be effective, though we are having or we are going to have vaccination soon, but we do not know their effectiveness and their impact would be less immediate. Ballooning public debt could also weigh on trade and GDP growth over the long term. Although rich countries are unlikely to face sovereign debt crisis as a result of fiscal expansion. So, rich countries are becoming more richer and poor ones are becoming more poorer. So, poorer ones may find their increased debt burdens extremely onerous. Deficit spending could also influence trade balances, reducing national saving and swelling trade deficits in some countries. The incidence of COVID 19 worldwide has fallen from its peak in the spring, but it remains stubbornly high in many areas. So, if we see, COVID 19 is actually humanitarian crisis on a global scale. The virus continues to spread throughout the globe, placing health systems under unprecedented stress in the battle to save lives. The human scale of this tragedy is set to worsen as the virus spreads to lower income countries with weaker healthcare system. And this we have seen in India. The downside scenario actually saw global growth halved to 1.5% in this COVID. And this is being optimistic. So the most recent estimates have been of unprecedented collapse in the first half of 2020 and almost 13% decline in global GDP. Also, the costs to the global economy from support packages through central banks and fiscal actions are very significant and likely to have long lasting and complex effects on management of sovereign and corporate debt. Yet, these efforts, most major economies now look set to enter recession, and more serious scenarios cannot be discounted. Also, a further challenge is the uncertainty about this disease. While vaccines are in place now, they're coming, but still there remains an uncertainty with the newer mutated versions of it. So people are really scared, and hence the business is also scared. So the scale and pace of infection, how long and widespread shutdown measures has been taken, the prospects for treatments to better manage symptoms, allowing health services to focus only on the most serious cases, and the risk of second wave infections as the virus moves around the globe. The virus is proceeding in waves with countries succumbing and said to recover at different times. What is clear is that virus and its aftermath looks likely to be with us for some time. So in this, what we can do is, in this unprecedented global health crisis, trade is essential to save lives and livelihoods, and international cooperation is needed to keep trade flowing. So this international cooperation is the key which can challenge the post COVID-19 situation. Amidst these significant uncertainties, I think the trade can do four things. One, boost confidence in trade and global markets by improving transparency about trade related policy actions and intentions. Secondly, keep supply chains flowing, especially for essentials such as health supplies and food. Three, avoid making things worse through unnecessary export restrictions and other trade barriers. Four, even in the middle of this crisis, think beyond the immediate. Government has to support the needs to be delivered in a way that ensures it serves the public interest and not the vested interests. Also, it has to avoid becoming tomorrow's market distortions. So, in fact, OECD, said in its report that it is working with other IOs to support governments through timely and objective evidence and analysis to inform policy choices. So, with now against this background, this is very clear that we need to keep trade flowing, both to ensure the supply of essential products and to send a signal of confidence for the global economy. Therefore, trade is essential to save both lives as well as livelihoods. But now we have to see one thing, that keeping trade flowing requires cooperation and trust, right? For example, the market supply will supply essentials, that countries will not impose export restrictions, and that imports do not pose health risks. So this is a particular challenge at a time of trade tensions, where the international trading system has already been subject to an increased number of new restrictions and distortions, from tariff increases among major traders to significant government support in key sectors. So, effort at dialogue to manage and prevent tensions through ongoing negotiations are now complicated by mobility restrictions. But in the context of severe economic strain from COVID 19, it is more important than ever to avoid escalation of current trade tensions, right? So we have seen that trade has played a critical role in responding to the pandemic, allowing countries to secure access to vital food and medical supplies. Trade has also facilitated new ways of working during the crisis through the provision of trade IT products and services. Now, one of the greatest risks for the global economy is the aftermath of the pandemic would be a descent into the protectionism. So most of the countries are resorting to protectionism. So that is a descent after this pandemic. So this was all about the WTO stats. These are our references. Thank you for listening.